So, ladies and gentlemen, LSK has been one of the most fierce and revered institutions in the country when it comes to defending the Constitution and keeping the government in check when it comes to matters law. Now, in the as recent as the last 2 months, we've seen chaos within the LSK. Now, Mr. President Havi, what exactly is ailing the society?
I issued a statement the day before yesterday, and in that statement we made it quite clear that the wrangles within the leadership of the Law Society are designed and fueled by the government of President Kenyatta. And the goal is simple: to undermine the independence of the bar in order that the current administration may continue violating the Constitution and disobeying the rule of law. And 3 fundamental factors underscore why we take this position. The Law Society and our leadership has been very vocal in ensuring that the country is governed by the rule of law. We have oversighted Parliament to ensure that the laws that are made there are in conformity with the Constitution. And the hallmark of that was the advisory by the Chief Justice to President Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failure to comply with the 2/3 gender rule. Insofar as constitutionalism is concerned, we have successfully challenged the initiative to amend the Constitution in the popular initiative now called BBI. And then more fundamentally, insofar as the rule of law and obedience of court orders is concerned, we've gone to court day after day, and in all the cases we succeed challenging administrative actions taken by the government. It does not therefore come as a surprise that there is a crackdown in the Law Society of Kenya. How has it been done? It has been done in this way. The government has used the former secretary of the council, Kamende, to designate her as the spokesperson of the society. What has she done? She has countermanded every action taken on behalf of the Law Society for the benefit not only of lawyers, the judiciary, but also the entire public. I'll give you a few examples. When we appointed a representative to the IBC selection panel, the government had an interest in that exercise. They used her to appoint a parallel person. It took an entire litigation for us to countermand it. We filed a claim challenging the curfew. Through Mercy Kalonzo, they attempted to withdraw that claim. We initiated the forensic audit in terms of the resolution of members made on the 23rd of July 2020. Appointed a forensic auditor. Mercy Kalonzo was used to countermand that exercise. What is the end goal? The end goal is twofold. For the government of President Kenyatta is to portray the Law Society as dysfunctional to the public. And to a large extent, they have managed to do that. No wonder, therefore, you'll see an article by Clay Muganda, who has no knowledge whatsoever about the happenings in the Law Society, trying to criticize and so to suggest, indicate that we are not able to lead. Again, you see the article by Kamotho Waiganjo. And these things are not new. They have happened before. In 1991, the government of President Daniel Moi deployed the same tactics to portray the Law Society as dysfunctional so that it doesn't play a fundamental role in challenging his administration. And then the second facet of the so-called wrangles, which I've indicated have been contrived and being fueled by the government and a section of the senior council, is to prevent the conduct of a forensic audit. Because as we speak, hundreds of millions of shillings contributed by members have not been accounted for. What better way to prevent the conduct of the audit than interfere in the manner in which they have interfered? In a nutshell, I've given a background as to how that has gone about. Herine is well versed in accounts. My vice president is the chair of the staff, budget and finance committee. They can shed more light on that aspect.
Definitely, and you brought, I just want to bring in Herine now that you mentioned she is an expert in matters finance.
Yes.
You talked about the CEO, Mercy Wamboa. I understand that the wrangles began with an audit query that incriminated the CEO in the tunes of about 70 million shillings. Now, how did you find yourself as an organization here?
The Chief Executive Officer, Mercy Wamboa, is also, one of her duties is to be the Chief Accounting Officer of the society. So the financial statements and accounts, at the end of the day, she's in charge of that. So at the AGM that was held in July 2020, members did not approve the accounts for the previous years. Members did not approve the accounts for the previous years because there were obvious queries they look at it. So that is why members at that AGM tasked the council to hire an auditor to conduct a forensic audit of those accounts. There were issues. I mean, if you were to audit the entire account, it's not even an issue about 70 million, it's more than that. So that is in relation to the accounts for 2020, 2019 backwards. The council, as we were last year, we also initiated a forensic audit of our accounts for the year 2020 backwards. This is something that has been frustrated up to this very point. And that is why you would say there are chaos, but there are frustrations to stop a forensic audit.
Let me bring in Carolyne. The general meeting that Herine has talked about, it was almost a fist fight. Now, fast forward to as recent as this month, we saw members of the society destroying properties, almost fighting each other by the collar. Now, as lawyers, you're expected to observe rule of law. Now, how does this portray you as LSK and as professionals in terms of you are the persons we come to when we have disputes among ourselves? So how does that portray you as LSK?
Thank you. First, before I answer that, let me pick over from where Herine and the President had reached, because I am the head of finance and budget in Matters Law Society. And all this chaos that you see, like the President has said, are self-designed. And they're designed by people who have entrenched interests in the financial status and also the vocal side of the law society. When we took over the law society, of course, as the head of finance, I am a signatory to the accounts. I'm bringing you to where the skills are coming from. And the first duty we did, because we had run on a mantra of transparency and accountability, was to ask for the bank statements and so that we could establish the status of the LSK in matters finance. That did not happen. Collectively, as a council of 13 members, on 10th of August 2020, we issued a directive to the CEO to summon the internal auditor together with the chief accountant so that they can give us the bank statements so that we can establish where we are, because we had an intention of developing Gitanga Road or South Sea property. This is where hell broke loose. The chief executive or officer of the Law Society, Kamende, refused to issue the summons. She thereafter refused to give us the bank statement. So by the time we came to the SGM, we did not have the bank statements, and because that SGM was to audit, or rather ratify the audited accounts for the previous years, the members refused to ratify and adopt the bank statements as drawn by our then external auditors. We were tasked as a council to look for a forensic auditor. And at this point, I want to demystify this narrative, false narrative, that the president or some faction of the council have been inclined towards a specific internal or forensic auditor. That is not true. Council made a decision on 10th of August 2020 that we appoint an auditor to undertake the task that had been given to us by members in the AGM of 23rd July 2020. We agreed on invitations for 3 auditors. We asked the CEO to send out. Of course, she took ages to send out the notice, inviting quotations. Only one auditor responded. And that is the auditor that we appointed on the 14th of September 2020. Because of this frustration in getting the bank accounts and the status of the accounts and finances of the society, Council made up of 13 members unilaterally issued a notice to show cause to Mercy Kalonzo Wambua. When that notice was issued, that is where the beginning of the problems that you've seen here started. She was fired on the 19th of October 2020. After that, that is when now there was split because some council members started, or thereafter countermanded the same decision that they participated in. And that is what has led to these court cases. The chaos that you're seeing is because, and in my analysis as the head of finance, is because there are persons who have been involved, and it has not started now. Councils, past presidents, past council members, the secretariat itself have been involved in misappropriating millions and millions of the finances of the law society. I will speak as a signatory to the accounts. At one point, I have been barred from accessing accounts, and you've seen recently that I have begged banks to give me access to the society's funds. Those monies do not belong to 3 individuals who are signatories to the accounts. They have refused. So where we are, the fights you've seen are fights about factions asking for accountability and transparency, and those factions that do not want transparency and accessibility and also accountability to members' funds are the people who are creating this chaos deliberately to portray the faction requesting for accountability as bad. You sat there, I'm sure you viewed and reviewed the clip. We were seated down, as I think 3 of us were there, and a few other council members. We're not the people who called the goons. We were seated outside, and before we knew it, unidentified people came, lifted us from our seats, and opened the premises of the law society. So these are not kills that are coming from members of the law society that want accountability. They are created so that they portray the law society as dysfunctional, to enable capture by the state, or what I think they are up to is to portray us as dysfunctional, as matters of national importance, bypass our attention. Day in, day out, I'm sure you've been waiting for us for some time in this office so we can give you this interview. We've been engaged in court. Day in, day out, 2 people that do not want us to perform our duties have been filing cases using proxies or directly in court just to make us busy. and remove us from performing our duties under Section 4.
But Vice President, you raised some quite accusations.
Yes.
You talked about people who are receiving back kicks from LSK or who are receiving and now don't want accountability. You've of course given titles, former council members and so on and so forth, members, and of course, are you able to give as a society, are you able to mention names?
I will not mention names, but I will say this. As late as August or July 2020, when we were in office, and when I was a signatory to the Law Society of Kenya bank accounts, there are transactions amounting 70 million or thereabout that were carried out by previous signatories to the bank accounts of the Law Society. We were already in office. I was already a signatory. Those are statements that we have that you can verify. We recently acquired statements from one of the banks where we bank, the Law Society banks with. Discovered previous signatories to the bank accounts were transacting in those accounts, I think a year or so after they had left office. We were supplied with statements from Safaricom on our paybill number. We have, by elimination, eliminated some banks where this money goes to. It drains to a certain bank. Our just literal analysis is that these monies don't reach there. The administrator is one, an employee of this society. She's one who has been administering all those millions and millions of monies that come to the society. I have seen movements of monies from that paybill number to a bank that I don't know, or I don't have bank statements, yet I'm the head of finance and I have not signed for them. This is the reason you see that they keep tagging me in the newspapers that have refused to sign for funds for ABCD. The reason is this: the Secretariat and the other signatories want me to append my signature, transferring millions and millions of members' funds without documentary evidence. They just want me to rubber stamp, and that is what I have refused to be. Because I have analyzed the little statements that I was able to acquire from some of these banks, and I have realized that we have issues of accountability. We have external persons who are not authorized signatories of the bank accounts making transactions in these accounts. Some times back, and I will give you a specific time, in December 2020, I was barred from accessing the Law Society of Kenya accounts held at Standard Chartered because we sign online. So I went in to sign for salaries, only to find that I could not access. The bank, the person I reached out at the customer care, told me, you're barred from operating these accounts. The only account that I was enabled to access was the one that had been closed. It was an account that had been closed. Of course, I documented all this, and the bank swept my complaint. We went there, watched the footage of the person who had given me this information, and it was confirmed. So we have people who have stolen, let me put it that way, members' money, now creating a chaotic environment to dupe members that we are the problem.
Are you able to mention those people that you think have allegedly stolen?
I have just said this. Previous officials of the Law Society, in conjunction with members of the Secretariat and previous signatories to these bank accounts. And it is documented where we have had transactions where persons unauthorized to transact at least when I am a signatory, these transactions have not come to me or to my attention. So that, because we were 4 signatories with a mandate of 3. The persons who transacted in those accounts to the tune of millions are not current signatories in the term that we are serving. So they can only be people with the intention to steal from the society, or have stolen from the society, or are refunding funds that they have stolen from the society. That is evidence that we can provide, and in due time we will provide that evidence to members. And after the special general meeting of members of 26th of June 2020, where members resolved that we get bank statements, I confirm that I received, some banks complied and give the statements to us. A cursory look at the statements. There were dubious transactions done by persons who held office or who were signatories to the bank accounts of the Law Society. The crux of the matter, other than diverting us from questioning the excesses of the legislature and the executive, is to hide theft of members' monies. And their resolve is to sustain this war by creating and inviting the police to humiliate and violate our rights and injure us, so that we leave office in March 2022 without having carried out forensic audit. The whole scenario of chaos starts and ends with forensic audit and the functioning, our function under Section 4 to check the excesses of the executive and the legislature. That is why all this narrative is running that the LSK is dysfunctional.
You said you'll provide evidence. I really hope to see it for our own investigations before we air it on Sunday. Mr. President, let me indulge you for a minute. Of course, all these accusations against the CEO and her, of course, side of the divide have not given in to these accusations, or rather, they said they are not party to those accusations. Are there, and it brings out issues, that you have issues, either personal or otherwise, with your chief executive officer. How would you respond to this?
The Law Society of Kenya is a statutory organization. Its leadership is constituted through an election. The 3 of us here are some of the council members elected. Nowhere on earth can a chief executive, an employee of an organization, be insubordinate to the elected leaders. But when you see a chief executive insubordinating elected leaders, you need to ascertain where from does she or he get such a powers. And I will give you examples. Not so long ago, there was a chief executive at the IEBC. You remember pretty well. He purported to give directions and orders, countermanding orders of the chair, orders of other commissioners. It was quite evident on whose behalf he was acting. And for him to be sustained in office, he required muscle bigger than his. Mercy Kalondu Wambua is an employee of the Law Society of Kenya. It's as simple as that. She does not have the power on her own to pull the stance of sending 5 DCI officers to come and arrest the president of the Law Society so that he doesn't hold a meeting in the boardroom of the Law Society of Kenya. She does not have the power, the wherewithal of deploying the OCPD Kabita division, the deputy OCS Mudangari, to send a contingent of 50 armed policemen to break into, occupy the offices of the Law Society of Kenya, destroy property, and maim council members, as happened on the 10th of August 2021. Do I have anything personal against her? None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Who demanded the audit? Not me. In fact, I'm a novice in matters account. I wouldn't know anything. But the members on their own reviewed the books. And when I put the question to vote, they said, no, Mr. President, we will not approve these books. There's a query here, there's a query there. Masi Kalondu Wambua tried to explain on the floor of the AGM, and the member said, shut up, you're an employee. We have said we want a forensic audit. And it's all documented. Now, as council, it is our responsibility to implement what members have resolved. But are we able to do that? We can do that with the mandate of the members. But truth be told, however strong we stand in our position, we are very little on account of reprieve against the government. So they will say, Harvest Council is a failure. How can Harvest Council be a failure? How do we fight 50 armed policemen? I mean, we are lawyers, for heaven's sake. We're not goons. So when an assault of that kind is targeted on us, we retreat and go and pursue the only avenue known in a civilized society, the court process. And if you look at it from that perspective, you realize why this employee who was fired, this employee who members have sent home on compulsory leave, is insistent on remaining in office. We are almost 2 years in our term. Mercy has not taken leave. And as it's customary of all CEOs, culpable for impropriety, they don't want to go home because they suspect when they are at home, improprieties will be disclosed. Therein lies the problem. Who has sustained Mercy Kalondu in office? Several governmental officers, commencing with the Cabinet Secretary Interior. And if you think these are lamentations, remember at one point in time when we had secured a state funeral for the late Zamba Gitonga Senior Counsel, the three of us had gone to Nakuru to bury another advocate. Mercy Kalondu Ombua, Fred Ojambo and Philip Murgor, those two non-Kanu lawyers, they're known, purported to go and represent the Law Society in meeting the state to organize this enterprise. You understand? Sorry to say, even the Chief Justice herself has called meetings and held meetings with Mercy Kalondu Ombua. I mean, how worse can you turn logic over its head? But more fundamentally, these officers who have held hostage the society are there on instructions. And at my level, at my stage and age in life, I also gather intelligence. They call you by the side and tell you, Mr. President, just pardon us. You know we're here on instructions from above. Interrogate it further. In the many cases in court, who is the lawyer for Mercy Kalondu Ombua? Waweru Gatonye. Who is the lawyer for the Attorney General here in the many cases we have in court? It's Waweru Gatonye. Who is the lawyer for President Uhuru Kenyatta? It's Waweru Gatonye. You don't need to have studied psychology, atomic physics to decipher this.
It's important that you brought out Philip Murgor, and I'll get back to you on what he said on matters of leadership. But let me indulge council member. We've talked about the Chief Executive Officer and about 9 other council members who were siding with her. And I think they were suspended, if I'm not wrong. Would you say there is a division in of course, the council?
Let me first speak to the issue of the president and the CEO. It's not that there is, first there is a narrative in the media that the president is against women. When you're employed as a chief executive officer, you're not employed there as on the basis of your gender. You're employed there on the basis of your abilities to do your work. So they are not agreeing on gender issues, they are agreeing on, we have disagreed with her on her inability to carry out what we require from her. So that narrative that it is against women shouldn't be there at all. On the issue of a division in council, it's a division on the basis of values. On one side, the council as we were in 2020, as we were elected in early 2020, on one side there are those of us who want to uphold the rule of law and constitutionalism and ensure accountability and transparency. On the other side, there are those who want to hold on and ensure there's no accountability, that the past as was there continues. So we disagreed on principle. That is why members of the Law Society, in fact, if you look at the minutes, they agree with us that we must, and they want to support us to ensure accountability. And that is why the 9 council members were removed. Yes.
So
let me just say something on that. As we speak, there is no division of council. We have a fully fledged working council of the Law Society of Kenya. And that's what we are doing. We are working to see what we can do for members between now and the end of the term. So there's no division in council. We, as Herine said, we were elected, but members of the society appointed a caretaker council to join the 4 of us who had stood firmly for the rule of law and accountability and transparency of the business that we carry out in the Law Society. It's not our mandate. We were given a mandate by members. I think in the history of this society, I think since 1948 or thereabout, I am the person who got the most votes since the history of this Law Society. So I have a big and bigger responsibility other than supporting the president to deliver on his mandate and what members give him, to ensure that there is accountability and transparency. I'm sure members did not vote for me overwhelmingly to support other council members who want to sabotage the operation of the society, and also to probably sabotage our objectives under Section 4 of ensuring that we assist the government in the administration of justice. I'll give you an example. There are matters that, of course, we would pick as a council and say, this one is an excess on the part of the executive, we need to file a case. Then we make a resolution. And of course, most of the time, because it's by vote, we either would succeed or the president takes and gives directions, because the buck stops at him. You will not believe that we would have council members appoint advocates to compromise cases. Without speaking about a matter that we just dealt today, it will surprise you that members of the bar, members who are advocates, who support police brutality. The scene that you saw on 10th of August 2020, an advocate has the temerity to come and tell the court, I support the police for trespassing into the Law Society of Kenya's premises and injuring a council member. We had 2 council members who were injured. I'm sure you have seen the clip going around. Esther Ngawa and Clarice Mbone. I'm shocked beyond words to see lawyers today telling a judge, well, the matter is in court, we support that action by the police. Then where are we taking this country if we allow members of the force to invade the premises of the Law Society? What then would they do to an ordinary Kenyan's home or premises? So what I'm saying is this. We are not divided. The president, myself, and the council members, and the caretaker council that we were given by members on the 26th of June 2021 are up to task. We are still delivering on our mandates that were given by members. And all this shenanigans and all these court cases that are filed.
You say
we will deal with them.
You say that LSK and the council is not divided.
Yes.
But according to some of the members, LSK is being ignored as a nuisance in many instances. And just referring to what Philip Murugan had said, and allow me to quote him, the administration by Havi and the wrangles at the LSK have taken the standings of the society to an all-time low. Do you think LSK is at its lowest?
The Law Society is not at its lowest. In fact, we are at our highest, because you have seen the kind of cases that the President has said that we have engaged recently. Yesterday we were in court with the President and council members of the Law Society to ensure that justice served for the two brothers who were killed in Embu. And I had told you earlier, there's a creation deliberately being done and carried out by members who do not want us to perform our duties. And this chaos and the lowness that you're talking about is a creation of a few, because that's what they want the public to believe, that the Law Society is at its lowest. Because we've been loudest on matters of administration of justice, on matters the rule of law. So there's no other way of bringing us down or showing the public that we're not performing other than by using such mockery terms that the Law Society is at its lowest. We're not at our lowest. There's no single case or law or any injustice that has been carried out or meted on any member of the public that the Law Society has not taken either to court. We traveled to Embu to bury the two brothers. We assured the residents of Embu that we will ensure that justice is served.
Fair enough.
We've been, despite all this created chaotic environment, we've performed our duties and we'll continue to do that.
Fair enough. Mr. President, as you respond to that quote by, of course, Murugo, constitutional lawyer Soinka Lemba says there is nothing wrong with the membership and the council. The only problem is the bloated ego of the leadership, and quote-unquote bloated ego. How do you describe your leadership as LSK President?
Our leadership has restored the lost glory of the Law Society of Kenya. And in an enterprise of this kind, there are those who will hold different opinions. They are, of course, entitled to hold their opinions. It is their constitutional right to hold those opinions. But what is most significant is an evaluation of our leadership vis-a-vis those who came immediately before us. Let me ask you a simple question. Who was my predecessor?
That slipped my mind.
Thank you. Who was the predecessor before him?
That's true.
Do you know Paul Mwite?
Yes, I do, senior counsel.
Or did he ever serve as chair of the Law Society?
Yeah, he did.
Do you know Hudson Kamau Korea?
Yes.
Did he ever serve as chair of the Law Society?
Yes.
Then here is your answer. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My two...
Are you trying to say that you have not made an impact compared to your tenure?
No, I'm not saying. I ask you questions that led me to the answer I wanted. You understand? Look, let us consider this issue of dissolution of Parliament. One afternoon, I was seated outside the Jacaranda tree at Gitanga Road. Then these 10 ladies, they came to me and they said they wanted to see the president. Okay, I listened to them. One of them was Jerotich Say, the other one was Daisy Obudanyi, and many other ladies in the gender equity and parity struggle, they told me, we sought meetings with your predecessors on dissolution of parliament. And they said, no, it's not something we need to pursue. Ask Herine. I delegated the matter to Herine and Beth Michoma, then in charge of gender. I told them, can you draft a petition we sign? They drafted the petition. We reviewed it as council. I appended my signature. And as day succeeds night, what my predecessors had not done for 5 years was done in a record 2 months. Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga advised the dissolution of Parliament. You understand? Look at this BBI enterprise. You know, when the same team came to me, Jerotich Say, Daisy Omdani, David D, etc., they said, can the Law Society pursue this matter? I said, we'll pursue it as Law Society. And I told them no. Those 9 council members who are always countermanding our decision will withdraw the suit. So why don't we, as council members, who ascribe to the rule of law, the 4 of us, Kamende, Kabita, Angawa, and I, file this suit on your behalf? And you see, sometimes there are things you can't hide. Like when an elephant has passed through some shrubs, you can't tell us it's a town because you still see it's an elephant. Even today, whereas the suit was filed on behalf of those 5 activists, everybody says and knows it is the Law Society. You understand? Now, I'm trying really to restrain myself to speaking to somebody with a diminutive record in the rule of law, like Philip Murgor. But let me speak. Because these issues were raised when Murgor appeared before the JSC for interview. And they asked him, Justice David Majaja asked him, were you not the one who prosecuted the detainees under Moi's regime, including Gitobe Manyar? Did you see his response? And you need to know who Philip Murgor is. This was the legal mind of Daniel Arap Moi. You understand? Yeah. And in the legal profession, we always have this term, Kanu lawyers, Kanu orphans. These are the Philip Murgor. There's nothing is done in this legal profession. And even when he was the director of public prosecution, his tenure was punctuated with a lot of vilification, castigation, compromises. Remember the cocaine howl case? You remember the Delamere case? He compromised all these cases. Yeah. He struggled to fix everybody. You understand? And because he's somebody who struggles to get an identity, he managed to wriggle his way to become senior counsel. Let me speak to Philip Murgor. If he wants to lead the Law Society, it's very simple. You put your name on the ballot, then you let the people check whether you're popular. I'm sure the gentleman will not even be elected as the chair of the Cattle Dip in Kerio Marakwet. He would. What about what did you say his name was? Lempa?
Lempa.
I doubt you can check in the Kenya law reports. Lempa has never argued a case. His acclaim will only be found in on Facebook. You understand? None whatsoever. I doubt whether he even understands any maxims in law. And if you to check his history, he studied law as his second degree, having alienda kwa shule kama Gumbaro. Unaelewa? Yeah. But let me end there because it's not important for us to use this valuable time to deal with insignificant characters within the legal profession. Individuals like Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria write to me every so often. That file, you can see at the far end, it's titled Letters from Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria. There are those who understand what we're doing. For instance, like the BBI initiative. The small me does not have the repository of knowledge. He gave me material that sustained that assault. Understand? He has indicated that the Law Society has to set a platform, come up with a conference for transition, because he understands we're doing a good job. There are many other senior counsel who affiliate themselves with what we do, but they prefer to be quiet in the expression of their support, and we appreciate that. But there is a cabal of senior counsel that got this title out of connivance, out of manipulation of the due process. Not all of them. There are many of the 24 who are deserving, but there are few who ought not to be there. And the leader of this gang is Philip Morgan. People who suffer identity crisis. Understand? But if you were to ask many lawyers, they will tell you they're satisfied. Lawyers are able to move everywhere in this country because we gave them the essential service provider card. You understand? A first in all the professions. You get it? Lawyers are respected everywhere in this country. If you go to Nyeri with our van, they will say, Adua Havi. You understand? We went to Embu with my vice president and the other council members on Friday. The mama there recognizes the Law Society. This was not the case before, you understand? And there are people who live in fear of the prosperity of others. Yeah. I mean, people are in their 60s, some are in their 80s. They're insignificant. So for that reason, they think this young man and these young ladies are doing something more impactful to Kenyans, yet we didn't do that. And I think therein lies the problem. Yes.
Fair enough. How do you have a meeting? Just to conclude, what are your final words? I'm giving you each 1 minute.
I'll speak on what the President has just said. And you asked whether the perception, whether the Law Society is at a whole, no. No, we are at our highest. As the President has said, you just walk out here, you walk with the President. Of course, they wouldn't recognize me, but if you walk with the President, the general public really appreciates what he has done on issues rule of law. I served under the previous administration, and I'll tell you for sure, the former presidents would not have taken up head-on the way he has taken up BBI, the way he took up dissolution of parliament. He has done extremely well. And for us, as a society, we are very grateful with his leadership. And thank you.
Vice President?
I will say something once when I got a chance to do an article, rather an article to be written about me in the newspapers. Doing the right thing never goes out of fashion, never goes out of... I will speak to the advocates, our members. This wars that we are fighting is about doing the right thing. I will not bend or compromise matters, transparency and accountability in matters, administration of justice, rule of law, more specifically, there are funds that we hold, members having given me this position as the Vice President in charge of the finances. We will soldier on. I call upon our members to unite and assist us in this fight so that we're not labeled that we are four of us fighting for accountability or fighting another faction. So mine will just be to ask our members to unite, ignore this self-designed, chaotic environment created to deceive members of the public or deceive our very own members that council is divided. We are not divided. We are still on our task that they give us. We shall continue to deliver on our mandate that we promised to do. More specifically, my call is on members to rally behind us in this fight. We are venturing into an electioneering year. This is the time the Law Society needs to be united, now more than ever. So mine will be to say we shall continue doing the right thing, because doing the right thing never goes out of style. Thank you.
I will speak to the advocates, members of the Law Society of Kenya, and members of the public, and more fundamentally, the judiciary. With my tenure in office due to come to an end in March next, this time is the evening of my term. I undertook to accomplish 3 main goals. 1, to defend the rule of law and constitutionalism. The hallmark of this goal has been the initiative that we took to ensure that the Constitution is not obliterated. Inside that goal also are the many pronouncements and decisions we have procured from court to challenge excesses of this government. Successful. Today, Justice Mrima has just given a landmark judgment, which if it is in my email I'll give you. He has declared as unconstitutional the directive that was made by the National Security Advisory Committee last year for the use of police to disrupt public rallies, meetings and assemblies in the name of containing COVID. He's even gone further and stated, were it not for a binding decision of the Court of Appeal, he would have declared the entire Public Order Act unconstitutional. Look at my office, you see those box files? They were not here before I became president. In each and every box file, a ruling and a judgment in favor of the Law Society of Kenya. My next goal was to oversight legislation. As we stand here, the merger between KQ and KAA has not gone through. Kenyans have been spared the loss of colossal amounts of money because of our intervention. That goal was monitoring legislation. But fundamentally, we have obtained the advisory from the Chief Justice for the dissolution of Parliament. If we were oversighting and monitoring legislation, what achievement will there be in that enterprise bigger than securing the dissolution of Parliament? Tell me. My third goal was to protect the practice law environment. Lawyers are now hallowed, they are respected. I have accomplished all that I intended to do. The reason as to why the government is keen on interfering with the leadership of the Law Society of Kenya is not about me. Because the damage, if any, I purpose to do is already done. They know. The problem is these 2 ladies. The problem is the other council members who are with us. The problem is to influence my succession. The government is determined to take over LSK. The government does not want this one to be president after me. The government does not want this one to be vice president or president after me. I want to ask members of the Law Society of Kenya to continue the legacy of the brave new bar. The lost glory has been restored. Don't let the likes of Philip Mulgore and Fred Ojambo take over the Law Society and give it back to the government of the Republic of Kenya, as has been the case 5 years before coming. To the judiciary, the independence that you enjoy right now is as a result of a sustained struggle by many former presidents of the Law Society of Kenya. I'll mention a few. Dr. William Mutunga, Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria, Honorable Paul Mwite, Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, and fundamentally, Senator Okongo Omogeni. All these things you see in the Constitution were the work of the Law Society of Kenya. We've had Chief Justices like Hancock's. We've had judges like Dugdale, Mango, who were used by the government to fight the Law Society and by extension to weaken the judiciary. There is fear that we are having a replica of that. It is important the judiciary understands that the Law Society is a key partner in the justice sector. And if the Law Society is penetrated by the state, weakened, and its independence interfered with, then the independence of the judiciary will also be interfered with. To the public, the Constitution of Kenya is a product of what lawyers and you fought for. We are the tipping point of the rule of law and constitutionalism in Kenya. We are headed to an election next year, which the status quo is determined to control. It is only the Law Society of Kenya that stands in a better position of securing the sustainability of the rule of law and constitutionalism. And the members of the public must be watchful of individuals determined to portray the Law Society as dysfunctional and unnecessary. Unfortunately, some of our colleagues in the media have been roped into this enterprise. And I can tell you, even you, without any fear of contradiction, I can enumerate many cases where I've had to go and intervene because Duncan Khaemba has been arrested in Kibera trying to cover a volatile situation as a result of government crackdown on the freedom of the press. I've gone to the DCI and come there for 3 days because Walter Menya has been arrested because of an article he's written. Even the case that we have won today is one in which the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta sought to restrict what you could report insofar as public rallies are concerned. The biggest partner of the people of Kenya is the Law Society of Kenya. I plead with you to ensure that the rule of law is sustained. Help us now and as we transit towards a new leadership of the Law Society of Kenya, which I emphasize the public has a big role to play. Because even my elevation to office was not just a function of lawyers. It was a function of journalists. It was a function of teachers. It was a function of mamambogas, those who sold me bananas in Embu, those who stopped me, those who said, I know my lawyer, let me call him and tell him to vote for you, Havi. You understand? The lost glory of the Law Society, which has been brought back, will never be lost.
So I think that will be all. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Sorry we kept you.
Well, watch out.
So late.
But you've gotten an interview that the media, other media houses will kill to have. I don't know.
We actually keep chasing them away.
They will
So
kill you
I was a
back.
bit reluctant, though you're a
That's
friend.
good. Thank you for your hospitality.
Yeah.
Sorry we kept you, the judge kept us.
Well,